Today is the last day of Seth Price Concept Store. I feel like Seth Price in 2012, which is still open, and we still have everything on sale. So if you want anything, come see me after the performance, and I'll check you out. And we also have a 30% off sale on all clothing today. And today, for one day only, we're selling Paige K. Bradley's book from 2023, I believe. Drive It All Over Me. So please pick one up. $20. Today, though, we're here for Paige's performance. Paige K. Bradley, artist and writer, is performing You Cannot Redress, a version of an essay she wrote for the fashion journal Viscose in 2021. Please welcome Paige.
Welcome. I'll be reading my essay from the second edition of the fashion journal Viscose, which first came out in 2021 around the theme of clothes. As the editor Jeppe Jogvig pointed out, that's not such a simple topic. The issue took inspiration from the Scottish writer Thomas Carlyle's 19th century speculative novel, wherein he focused on a fictional writer's thesis titled Clothes, Their Origin and Influence, and basically invented fashion semiotics long before Roland Barthes. Carlyle called clothes unspeakably meaningful. They can be expressive and still strangely mute. The issue explored garments as signs that are at once empty and overloaded, markers of desire, of people and places, palimpsests for capitalist production, and the histories of dress bodies, even as leftover material debris. In short, it was a study of clothing as a sculptural material, a parallel, I think, to Robert Smith's attitude toward language and interchangeability of writing and sculpture. So before I move forward with my text from the issue then, interspersed with and inflected by another piece, which I brought here today, I have a preamble, a shaggy dog chasing its own tail, a snake shedding its own skin, a gecko pulling off its own hide. Say what you like. On October 4th, 1995, Neon Genesis Evangelion, which takes place in the year 2015, began its original 26-episode run, airing on the channel TV Tokyo. The character Asuka Langley Soryu arrives more than a quarter of the way through, with the United Nations fleet escorting her in a very big machine across the Pacific Ocean, to Japan all the way from Germany. Per Evangelion canon, Asuka is born on December 4th, 2001, a fire sign, making her 13 or 14 years old at the time of her debut. She is American, though ethnically German and Japanese, with red hair. Pantone's color of the year for 2002 was True Red, purportedly as a strangely literal sort of commemoration of 9/11. I can believe it, since American tributes are often pretty on the nose. Asuka is not especially affable and seems to think highly of herself. When she first dons a suit for work, a full body casing of red with black and green accents, which can be suctioned on skin tight, thus turning her into something of a vacuum formed sculpture to be plugged into the cockpit of Unit 02, her monstrous machine, she readies for her task by addressing herself in the third person. Asuka, let's go. Yes, there's an inscrutable, destructive being from another world to defeat, but the mission is essentially to be herself, to win and show her talent. She's been preparing for such a scenario for years. Action is a theater, and she wants to perform on the stage. She aims to prove herself a victor, and her time and art is one of war. Too young for strategic thinking, she relies on sheer aggression and relentlessness instead. It almost goes without saying that her first engagement doesn't go according to plan. A boy who's ostensibly the main character of the story is there to help. This is surely not what she had in mind. In the manga's version of the same event, she wins by herself, handily, in no time. It takes only 36 seconds to annihilate her target. I'm 36 years old. Oh. She invited confidence in her moral power. Few people have the gift of looking and smiling as she did. One of her rare expressive looks was something to remember through life. There was such a depth of soul and feeling, and yet shyness of revealing herself, a strength of self-containment seen in no other. She was in the strictest sense a law unto herself, and a heroine in keeping to her law. She and gentle Anne were often seen twined together as united statues of power and humility. They were to be seen with their arms lacing each other in their younger days, whenever their occupation permitted their union. Even at rest, which is for her a series of passages between strident and or violent actions, she usually keeps part of her uniform on, a small pair of scarlet devices employed as hair clips. No AirPods in this future past, just pods held aloft. She appears otherwise, in a school uniform, a cream-colored dress, bath towels, but these ornaments of mysterious utility are fairly constant. Beneath the clips is her copper mane, under which lies the mind of a bitch who never rests. Anger be now your song, Achilles is angered, doomed, and ruinous, etc., etc. Facsimiles of the hair accessory have been available for any number of years online, ranging from $15.75 to over $100 USD, but made a special guest appearance in a music video from August 4th, 2020, for Atlanta rapper 645AR's track Some About You featuring FKA Twigs. Twigs plays a cam girl, and 645AR breaks out his credit card number to get access to a striptease, where the look is clearly an homage to Asuka's battle regalia. Here the look is edited into an ensemble of custom gloves and bra from latex couturier Atsuko Kudo, as well as a pair of geisha custom fire duffel boots by self-proclaimed humanoid android designer Christian Stone, who apparently works with a team of 13 mutants. It's not cultural appropriation, it's culture. Notice, please, at work here is an offbeat definition of materialism, a worldview in which every detail matters, in which every factual statement is material. Wayne Custenbaum said that. Notice, please, my contrapposto, a characteristic of the severe style, a stage of ancient Greek sculpture after the archaic, which lasted for approximately 130 years. The End of Evangelion, a film that reimagines the final episodes of the Evangelion television anime series, was released on July 19, 1997. Roughly halfway through the film, a previously suicidal Asuka chooses life once more and resurrects herself, plugged into her war machine from the very bottom of a body of water to create a melee of destruction and fire, before being ripped limb from limb and eaten alive by a series of 9 handily self-resurrecting white angels, all of which she had previously defeated in 3.5 minutes. During the period when it seems like she's winning, Orchestral Suite Number 3 in D major, BWV 1068, 2, Air, a circa 1730 composition by Johann Sebastian Bach, scores the scene. The climax of the film is a world-annihilating apocalypse engineered with the intention of total singularity called Third Impact. A passage from Sylvia Plath's 1963 poem Ariel comes to mind. The dew that flies, suicidal, at one with the drive, into the red. What I'm describing here aligns with the Greek narrative device of the Aristeia, an act of excellence, a moment in an epic when a hero reaches the apex of martial glory, oft described in graphic detail. 2 years after writing an editorial for an online fashion retailer in which I lodged a recommendation for Simone Rocha crystal hair clips to aid in emulating Asuka's work-life look, the H&M Simone Rocha collection dropped on March 11th, 2021, and included a pair of poppy red crystal glass bead embellished steel clips. The embellishments resemble small bouquets. Fair enough. It's stimulating to ride the same wave as commercial behemoths, sometimes. Then things escalated. In designer Jun Takahashi's fall 2021 undercover ready-to-wear collection, Creep Fairy, shown at Tokyo Fashion Week on March 19th, look 16 was Asuka's plug suit as streetwear, leggings, boots, gloves, and a long sweatshirt with sections sewn in recall of her original suit's complicated dart lines. And hair clips, of course, practically speaking indistinguishable from a cosplay item. The next day, a new wave of collaboration between Vivienne Westwood and the Japanese sports brand ASICS yielded the release of the Gel Kayano 27 LTX in citrus, a dead ringer for the refreshed color palette of Asuka's plug suit design for the recent remaking of Evangelion, as a number of films collectively known as the Rebuild series, the individual titles of which often declare contradictions by way of a parenthetical phrase, e.g. 2012's Evangelion 3.0, you cannot redo. To top it off, on May 27th of 2021, Anna Sui announced a new collab, just 2 t-shirts, and one bears the vermilion head of Unit 02. The final entry in the Rebuild saga was released on March 8th, 2021 in Japan, where some Anna Sui products are manufactured. The industriousness of the zeitgeist can sometimes resemble something of a conspiracy. One definition of conspiracy theory, conspiracy deriving from the Latin word conspirare, is to breathe together. Until somewhere we breathe as one, like Judy said. Pantone's color of the year for 2012 was Tangerine Tango, described by the Pantone Color Institute as a spirited reddish orange. On October 22nd, 2012, famous Sagittarian Taylor Swift's 4th studio album, Red, was released on Big Machine Records. Her favorite number, as she has constantly reminded people, is 13. In place of direct references, allusions can sometimes creep in, verily unbidden. On February 12th, 2021, I bought off of eBay a pair of red Nike Huaraches with the word air molded into raised plastic at the heel. Nike, we may recall, was in Greek myth a goddess of victory, a kind of mediator figure between the divine and men. Consulting the few color photographs of Sylvia Plath, it would seem unfair to claim she had red hair, though it seems common to make another erroneous claim, that her work is confessional. What exactly she was guilty of, though, I've never heard articulated. A word's very definition seems likelier to change over time than poor reactions projected dimly in a cheap theater of reputations. Here's a better legend. In the fall of 1962, specifically during the last week of October when she turned 30, Sylvia honed 11 poems, including the first drafts of Lady Lazarus, the title of which alludes to the biblical account in the Gospel of John of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. This is the 7th and final miracle performed by Jesus leading up to the crucifixion, and a foreshadowing of Jesus' own subsequent resurrection and 3 further appearances on earth. The full poem appeared for the first time in print a year later, October 1963, in the publications Review and Encounter. In it, there is burning, ash, and rising again with red hair. What kind of mind would think of such imagery as confessional in its definitional sense of reconciliation? If the I is limited to the personal, which apparently is the same as saying, I confess, then by way of that careless reasoning, let's go ahead and claim Sylvia had red hair, and that even Lady Lazarus would eat all the angels, like air. She would be the main character, with victory in 31 seconds or less. In the grogginess of early mornings, Do-hee Kang often feels her husband, Junku Kang, next to her. She tries to talk to him only to realize he is gone. The couple met when Ms. Kang visited New York as a college student in 1994. She soon returned to Korea, but he followed her back to Seoul the next year and proposed to her the day after she graduated. He gave me 1,000 origami cranes and said when he missed me, he would make a crane, she said. The couple have 2 daughters, Ariel, 4, and Diane, 2. Mr. Kang, 34, was a computer analyst at Cantor Fitzgerald. This project is deliberately constructed as a conspiracy about time. I couldn't say it any plainer. Returning to the first person, consider the I Want song, a traditional device in musical theater to spell out a character's motivations. Playwright and lyricist Howard Ashman wrote at least one in 1986, which later became Part of Your World, a centerpiece of Walt Disney Animation's 1989 comeback film, The Little Mermaid, based on the Danish writer Hans Christian Andersen's folktale, with songs and music by Ashman in collaboration with Alan Menken. Former Disney chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg wanted it cut from the film. Ashman's counterpoint was as such. It's Ariel's dream. You're not going to miss what the film's about. That's the central issue of the entire film. By having her sing it, it makes that point indelibly. She says, I want more, and this is the language of revelation, not confession. Expressing her desire to live out of the water, the main character Ariel, framed by a mass of cherry-colored hair, lodges this query, which I interpret as essentially rhetorical. What's a fire, and why does it, what's the word, burn? Asuka, I suspect, would not reflect on such a thing. The question is slow, and she is tightly encased in that suit, squeezing herself into pressurized forward momentum. A physicist would say that if a book is thrown onto a fire, the resulting ash would retain information from the original. But the problem for the would-be reader is illegibility. What's now left of the record has to, in some sense, be taken on trust. Believe science? Or, out of ash, could one fashion a phoenix? And what of the truths revealed by the fictions that run parallel to facts until some collision? Where do the dead fall in all this, and where does their information go? On March 14th, 1991, Ashman dies of AIDS in Beacon, New York. In a May 2001 interview in Venice Beach, California, which turned out to be the last before he killed himself in 2003, the artist Jack Goldstein commented on the writing process for his late work. I see reading and writing to be a re-speaking and rewriting. When I read, I'm rewriting what someone else wrote. All of us do. Elsewhere in the same interview, he asserted, "You fight for the right to make art. It's frightening, but it's true." Of Burning Window, a 1977 installation, which includes a backlit ruby-colored four-paned installation of a plexiglass casement, which simulates a world on fire at a distance, he said, "This spectacle, which may be felt ambiguously both real and as a cinematic illusion, calls into question the truth of visual experience." What is this truth of seeing Asuka everywhere, like a bias coloring reality? Once the thought of Asuka standing, smoldering in expression and image in front of this window occurs, the relationship between the two is fired and burnished. This is part of the spectacle of my thought process, and my thinking is part of the spectacle. The phenomenal can be made factual. But rather than taking such as an answer, as inherently meaningful sign, as a true conspiracist might, why not let it be a question? Here's one. How real can she be? Hayley Williams doesn't really do hair accessories so much, but some of her red letter days in the otherwise mostly irredeemable heyday of the Warped Tour include a sharp and angular vermilion cut. She sells the look now not so much on herself, but in a bottled color called Riot, a less intense version of which she sported on a 2009 tour in Japan. There she is on stage at Summer Sonic, wearing a version of a Japanese school uniform, singing Paramore's Decode. This is what I imagine Asuka would have looked like in her own show, like a real person. And didn't the algorithm on YouTube show me this for a reason? Isn't this complex system of content coordination saying, was this the world you wanted? Reality retreats, visibility is exploited, and in some devastated sense, I do feel seen. On July 23rd, 2020, Taylor Swift announces the midnight EST July 24th drop of her new album, Folklore, with a post on YouTube featuring a black and white photograph of her alone in the woods. The musician Aaron Dessner, who performed a document of 14, co-wrote or produced 11 songs on the album. What I'm doing is not just for the exhibition. It is not over when the exhibition in Kassel closes. Histories are not composed only of proven materials, as in, here's a text that proves something. Not everything finds its way into the historical record and into the realm of what can be proved. And those leaps of imagination, those connections, are constantly happening today, too. Modernism helped set up a few fissures in the conception of time and space, and the #1 song in America on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, as of this writing, was Olivia Rodrigo's Good For You, but you've heard it before as Paramore's Misery Business, 2007. Do you remember how when we first met Olivia, her character's name was Paige? An updated classic. Here's another. Replying to @Dean Kissick, eternal return isn't about desire consent. Sorry. Something is pulling me. I feel a gravity. Nothing more, nothing less. And another, the first section of T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets, Burnt Norton. Set in the rose garden of the house, it opens with the following lines. Time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, which, since September 2015, I can only hear in Lana Del Rey's voice. We can have our time past and eat it too. And who's to say Rodrigo won't do an anime girl's look for an upcoming video? Maybe say Asuka's. Red, skin tight, whatever, the reference won't matter. Kandinsky-style color theory will win the day, the passion of what's up. She's already wearing latex gloves in the Good For You music video while shopping for gasoline canisters. The final online forum sign-off on March 24th, 2001 by the early aughts time traveler John Titor was as follows. Bring a gas can with you when the car dies on the side of the road. Strike a match and the Ouroboros swells. During Sandra Bernhard's 1994 BBC television special, Confessions of a Pretty Lady, the artist John Boscovich declared, the use of a cover, an old song, will trigger a memory, and so it's more rich. I think T.S. Eliot at one time, it was in the Four Quartets actually, he said that the proper use of memory was to expand love beyond all definition and beyond one's own personal sphere. And I would concur with that. In Eliot's book, the last poem, Little Gidding, ends as follows. And the fire and the rose are one. Realizing a thesis in time is something like a battle. For the rose and fire to become one, territory has to be covered, even earth scorched. To say something with flowers, let 100 or so bloom, then there'll be more ash to work with. There's a swimsuit version of Asuka's plug suit. The front is covered, the back is cut out, in which one could feasibly swim to the very bottom of a body of water and rise again. This will be a performance, and it will not take place. Let's go.
Come